Race 3 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. We're in Winterberg in Germany on a Sunday morning where fortunately the rain and the snow have stayed away and the track conditions are excellent for our second and deciding heat of this third World Cup race of the season. Little blustery, it's pretty humid with a bit of mist hanging around, but that didn't stop excellent performances in the first heat. Martin Viesturs, first a winner here back in 2007-8, and 8 consecutive wins in a row on this track in third place. And last year it was his first time off the podium in 13 seasons here. In second place after the first heat, you'd expect to see somebody like Alexander Tretiakov maybe, or one of the Germans like Axel Jung, but a stunning slide from Kim Ji-soo of Korea produced an excellent turn of pace all the way down the track, and he is in the silver medal position, 500s ahead of Viesturs, 1900s however behind his own teammate Sunbin Yun. Yun was off the podium in both races in the Lake Placid. That was the first time since 2017 where he finished 5th place here that he has not been on a World Cup podium. He looks like he's putting that to rights today with a stunning first run. Well, hello everybody, welcome. I'm Martin Haven with the action from the second and deciding heat of our men's competition. Yun is 1900s ahead of Kim. Viesturs a quarter second back, but look, from 1900s back to 2900s back in 6th position. That is where the battle is for the medals. Felix Kaisinger definitely in the hunt. From there on back though, down to 20th place is the rest of our field. 21st to 30th in the first heat do not get a second slide. So Kevin Boyer, Carl Murray and the rest join the fans trackside to watch the Fast 20 take to the ice. Well, there is Felix Kaisinger, our junior world champion. We've got the Youth Olympic champion from 2016 and from 2012 in the fields. Manuel Schwertz, the 2012 Youth Olympic champion, didn't make it through into the second heat though. Ice is -3, air temperature +2. It's the warmest day we've had so far for competition. There's Kim Ji-soo and Martin Viesturs. You're allowed to change the setup on your sled. You change the runner. The runners aren't flat like an ice skate. They're bowed like a rocking chair. And you can change the amount of bow. You're not allowed to change the actual runners themselves, though. So if you've chosen material in your runners that suits colder conditions or warmer conditions, then you may find yourself in a little bit of trouble. Alexander Tretiakov there warming up. So is Sunbin Yun. That's Alex Hansen of Norway. And there is the final corner in this Winterberg track. Our start order, we go from 20 down to first. Their first heat performance and their second heat are added together. Total elapsed time decides who's first and who's not. Vladislav Heraskevich will be the first one off, and leader Sunbin Yun goes last to defend that lead against all comers. By that stage, we could have seen a lot of changes on this tricky track. Third men's skeleton race of the BMW IBSF World Cup season. Vladislav Heraskevich popped the groove with his sled before he even loaded in his first run. It looked like his race was over then, but the young Ukrainian incredibly found enough pace to make it into 20th place in a field of 30. Let's see now if he can move up the order. 5:10 compared to 5:30 when he popped the groove. That's a much more representative start, although he would like to be closer to 5 seconds flat. He's a powerful athlete. He comes from mixed martial arts, powerlifting. He's not been a sprinter, and he is trying to turn in that speed. What he does have on his side is mass and confidence. He really feels the sled well, and he doesn't panic. Into the Kreisel, the 270-degree corkscrew turn. You come out underneath the track on the way in, and then down through corner 8 into the big corner 9. And dropping out through the little kink corner 10. This is 11, great exit, and the transition into 12 required to set up the labyrinth. 12, 13, and then 14, the final corner, long double pressure corner, 56.86, and that is 0.8 of a second quicker than his previous run. And he was only 400ths behind Florian Auer of Austria, so immediately it looks as though we may see a bit of Vlad in the leader's box. To make it through after popping the groove, quite remarkable frame of mind, clearly, because he would have been absolutely fuming and cursing when the sled popped out. But then you've got to be zen, calm on the way down, and somehow translate that into a second heat. Impressive stuff. So there is Vladislav Heraskevich, our 20-year-old from Ukraine. Next up, Florian Auer of Austria, his former teammate, holding the sled. Gugi now coaching the Austrians. So Florian Auer started 5:08 and he came down 57.64. He has just 400s in hand over Vladislav Heraskevich. So he knows that there is going to be pressure now on him. See his hand also on the side of the sled that's not in that groove. He's a lefty, so pushes from the other side. 5:03. 500's quicker than his first run, 700 quicker than Heraskevich. So he's in the green as he lies down. But he's giving away a lot in terms of weight to Heraskevich. And it is the weight of the sled and the athlete that helps it accelerate through the forces of gravity as you go down the hill. 1500's up, but that gap has come down to 500s now. And from the Kreisel on down, he's going to need really smooth lines. Heraskevich drove well. See a real shine on the ice. Looks like they've spritzed it between the runs to give it a mirror surface. 1100s back, Florian Auer, I think the first victim of the recovery of Vladislav Heraskevich. 127.7 kilometers an hour. Across the line at just under 80 miles an hour, 57.19. So Vladislav stays in the leader's box and Florian Auer in second place. Well, he made the cut, he won't drop out of the top 20. And although this is a relatively straightforward track, the devil here is in the detail. Oh, got a lot of corner zero, and that didn't help. Takes away some of that initial speed from the quicker start than Heraskevich. Just a fraction high there, perhaps. Coming into the Kreisel on that first pressure. Holds the line nicely in the middle of the corner. Good gliding style from Florian Auer. Next up, Austin Florian for the USA. He will join me in the booth to call the women's race later this morning, or early this afternoon. And I'm not sure after his first heat he was convinced he was going to make it through into the second run, but he was 18th fastest. His advantage over Heraskevich is only 1100ths of a second. He too started 5:08 in the first heat, just a little over rotation as he got onto the saddle. 5:05, giving it everything he can off the start. This top part of the track to corner 5 is all but flat, and in fact it climbs uphill here from 3 to 4, and you must avoid skidding. Very easy to do so. There's no real G-force to push the sled onto the ice, just the body weight. The contact patches probably the size of the first knuckle joint on your little finger. It is absolutely minuscule, and the runner's barely any wider than your little finger. And so it's like a tiny seesaw pivot, very easy to get sideways. He's gone from 100th up to 2200s back. 128, better speed than Florian Auer, but at the line he drops behind by 400s. 57.30 for Austin Florian. So Austin Florian drops behind Florian Auer, and Vladislav Heraskevich has 2 scalps in his recovery. I could see Vlad maybe getting up to around 15th place. Thereafter, I think the gaps might be a little too big. Just a little step over rotation there. You can see it's dragging the sled sideways. Luckily, it stays in the groove, but only just. So Austin Florian with that first heat that got him into the race. Second heat dropped him, though, to the tail of the field, but we could see some more of that. Next up is Alex Hansen of Norway. Former world champion and World Cup champion Kristen Bromley with the sled. He and brother Richard build these Bromley Tech sleds. Richard coaches Yun and the Koreans. And Kristen coaching Alex Hansen of Norway, helping out with Kimberly Boss of Netherlands. Kimberly not here this weekend. A lot of the coaches help out with a bunch of smaller nation athletes. Oh, and Hansen gets a little kick sideways out of that spur, takes a lot of corner zero on the way in. He does have a quick start. That was 5:10. His first start was 5:06. Thought he might have gone a fraction quicker than that. It's not, the time is not just the sprint until they lay down. It's actually over the first 50 meters. So a little dink up corner zero, not helping. Went from 1400s up to 900s down on Vladislav Heraskevich. Like Vlad, he's a tall, powerfully built athlete. Ooh. Legs way apart there, knees steering hard to stop the sled fishtailing. Looks like a pretty wild ride for Alex Hansen, and at the moment he is in fourth place, 57.77. So Vladislav Heraskevich stays in the leader's box, getting all punchy down there. And Alex Hansen drops to fourth, Florian Auer is second, Austin Florian third. 16 to go, there's Phil Searle helping with the sled at the bottom. Again, see lots of body weight being used to steer the sled away from the dink on corner zero. And here, little early exit, gets bumped away again. Nice looking line in corner 11, already steering down with his head as the sled starts to rise. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, you steer with the entire body, using the weight on the knives, on the runners, affecting the balance and also affecting the airflow. 20th of our starters in the first heat was Great Britain's Jerry Rice. Jerry getting his spot as a result of the retirement of Dom Parsons. He's been in and out of the World Cup squad over the last few years. Dom, the Olympic bronze medalist, returned this year after a year away, completing his PhD. And took the races in Lake Placid, but has retired since at Christmas. Jerry Rice now back in the World Cup squad. 3700s up on Vladislav Heraskevich. First sub-5 start of this second heat. 496. And it's a good looking run. He's holding his advantage. 3200s up. 57.5 miles an hour, slower than Heraskevich though, into the Kreisel. The gap comes down to a quarter of a second. 59.8 to 60.2 miles an hour in that speed trap, losing time still. It's going to be close at the line, only 79 miles an hour to 80 of Heraskevich, and he is just in front. 500ths of a second in the end is what it takes to bump Vladislav Heraskevich out of the leader's box. A 56.98 for Jerry Rice. His first heat, a 57.51. So that's 5300ths of a second quicker. So Jerry Rice takes the lead. Again, corner zero, all sorts of problems for everybody. There's just no way really of avoiding it in a skeleton sled. So Jerry Rice takes the lead. The High Wycombe-born slider from Vladislav Heraskevich of the Ukraine. Florian Auer lies in third. 5 down, 15 to go. Race 3 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. We're in Winterberg in Germany, and with 15 to go, you do not often come across Nikita Tregibov of Russia. Russian rocket had, well, not the greatest start, to be fair, and from then on, it went rapidly downhill, although not rapidly enough down this hill. He ended up in 15th position. A near disaster. What's the start like? 5:03. He started 5:01 in the first heat. That is not firing on all 12 cylinders for Tregibov. He should be down in the 4.9s or 4.8 something. He has been one of the fastest starters in the business. He should be right up with the likes of Yun and with Tretyakov and with Dukurs. A couple of the other flying starters. But Tregibov here starting slower. He's already dropped behind Jerry Rice by 0.4 of a second. He is going to end up, he is in danger of ending up last in the race. At the moment, only just ahead of Alex Hansen on the splits. This is going to be close. Wow, a shocking day at the office for Nikita Tregibov. Jerry Rice stays in the leader's box. Tregibov drops behind Vladislav Heraskevich, Florian Auer, Austin Florian into 5th place of our 6 sleds. Well, there'll be some people who walk away from here with more questions than answers. And right at the top of that list, Nikita Tregibov. Didn't look like a shocker, it just was. And then you have to look at, all right, there's a couple of little errors, but there's a couple of little errors in almost every run. You have to look at the start not being up to it, but it was middling. And then you have to look at the material. The runners completely wrong for the day. Jerry Rice leads with 14 sleds to go. Next up, our 14th starter in his 14th World Cup. This is Gungwen Chang of China. World Cup best for him, still 7th place on his debut in Lake Placid back in 2017. We thought, wow, the Chinese have really found something. He has not reached those heights since then. Long toe steer onto corner 0 off a 5.11 start. Well, at least that's 400s quicker than his first getaway. Only 300s as he lay down ahead of Jerry Rice in what is a very tight Winterberg field as ever. He's gone behind, all working a lot. You can see the legs and the toes moving. 1100s back, the gap grows. 92.1 Ks, slower than Jerry Rice. Fastest through all the speed traps, by the way, Vladislav Heraskevich. You can hear the toes dragging there. Again, a big toe steer down to corner 9, through 10. Sets him up for this big left-handed 11. Crossover into 12 is smooth. He's coming back. He's a long-rangey athlete. Good speed at the bottom. Very close. He's the fastest of them all and just bumps Jerry Rice by 0.12 of a second. There's Andy Schmidt. Happy with that. Well, he was sliding the track the way you'll see the German women do, off middling, let's be generous, starts. They find pace on the way down the ice. Little just stumble on the final step there. Despite that, he actually went quicker. But where he makes his speed is lower down the track. And good run through the Kreisel, all helps there, keeps a nice even parabola. So Gunga China has the lead. Fastest 13 sleds to go, and next up is Yevgeny Rukoshwev, our youth Olympic champion from 2016 in Lillehammer. It's only his 6th World Cup start. He was 20th here in January 2017. He's been in and out of the World Cup squad since then, more out than in. But Rukoshwev in 13th place, happily ahead of his teammate Nikita Tregibov by 0.2 of a second. 5.06 start, where he started 5.14 in the first heat, so that's a big improvement. His advantage over Gung from the first heat was 600s, so he's added a 10th to that already. The rule of thumb is for every 100th you're faster at the top on the skeleton sled, you'll probably be 2.5 hundredths faster at the bottom. So he started 500s, that should give him more than a 10th of a second in hand, but the gap is coming back down, and this is where Gung made his speed, down in the labyrinth and through the final corner. Rukoshwev is very close, still 1200s in front, just about stabilised at 129.3, good speed, and that's enough. It is to take the lead, 57.01, 300ths of a second quicker than Gung. So Yevgeny Rukoshwev has the lead of the race for Russia. A few Russian fans down there to greet him as well. 20-year-old from Krasnoyarsk is the race leader with a dozen sleds to go. Not beyond the bounds a possibility that the relative rookie could end up with a top 10 finish here, where teammate Nikita Tregobov will be lucky if he's better than 19th. Big smile for him as he greets Gung. They will have raced together a lot outside the World Cup in the Intercontinental Cup, the second tier of sliding. And next up is a man who's just come straight up from that level, Amadeo Bañez, our World Cup rookie. One of two debutants in the field. Brendan Doyle of Ireland was the other one. He didn't make the cut, but this kid did. Just 20 years old from Tricero, close to, well, about halfway between Milan and Torino. And very inexperienced. He's had a total of 8 official bobsleigh skeleton races before this. Won the last of them in Koenigsegg in December, and then makes his World Cup debut. So he's not been so much promoted up the ladder as fired out of a cannon into the World Cup. 486 is a stunning start, and this is a really good looking slide. Now this could be a guy who's been at it 8 or 10 years rather than, well, 8 or 10 months isn't quite accurate, but in his second season of sliding, 4 tenths up. So how can he be doing this? And yet Nikita Tregobov, the Olympic silver medalist, was so woeful that it looks like we're looking at the wrong person here. Bañez, wild at the bottom of the labyrinth, risks it all at the bottom. 56.95, first sub 57 run. No, it's not Jerry Rice, it's 56.98. So that's the quickest run of the second heat. Well, he shakes his head, and that's another good sign. He's frustrated with himself for the mistakes at the end of the labyrinth, not delighted to be on the fringes of the top 10 on his World Cup debut. Again, like everybody else, gets a bit of corner zero, a bit too much. You put him into a skid, he had to kick the wall away and then a toe steer, and then down at the end of the labyrinth. Wild and fast. Oh, yes, but top 12 on your debut after a year of sliding. 1 win under his belt in Koenigsegg. Fantastic. So holding the sled, Katsuhiro Koshi, the Japanese sliding legend, for Jung Seng-gui of Korea, the third of our Korean athletes, just out of the top 10. Well, didn't race here before in World Cup. He's raced in the European Cup and Intercontinental Cup, North America's Cup, but this is only his third World Cup start. And like Amadeo Bañez of Italy, a youngster relatively inexperienced in ice sliding terms compared to the field around him, who really knocked it out of the park in the first heat. Another quick starter, 487. Ask any coach, they'll say, give me a starter and I'll turn him into a slider. The other way around is much harder. He's opening up the advantage over the Italian. 1400ths of a second. Don't forget, even if he drops behind, Bañez was very wild at the end of the labyrinth. Nice crossover into 12. Good looking run from Jung of Korea. He's going to take the lead with only 10 to go. 56.69. And that is a big step forward. 57.11 in the first heat, which was almost good enough for the top 10. That's a 0.4 of a second improvement, 0.3 of a second improvement. It's a good second run from Jung Seng-gui. Well, like everybody, getting more and more of corner zero as their starts get faster. Brings it down a little early, late pressure pushes him back up again. And the flop there just takes a tiny bit of energy out of the sled. But a very, very strong pair of runs here in Winterberg for Jung of Korea. 10 down, 10 to go. Young Sung-gui leads from Amadeo Banyis and Yevgeny Rukoshwev. A bunch of rookies hanging on just outside the top 10. We've got to decide the medals next. Well, the weather here around Winterberg has been a little bit damp and misty all week. It rained for the last 2 days, little flurries of snow as well. Today, at least, it is dry, so shouldn't be any frosting on the track. But the bright sunshine of Tuesday, long since gone. Well, there's your race leader, Young, just checking the hair in the, oh, there you go, checking the hair in the monitors. And he'll be watching his rivals coming down. And the top three, Young, Banyis and Rukoshwev, three young talents for the future, for Korea, for Italy and for Russia. Gung of China lying fourth, Jerry Rice of Great Britain in fifth position with 10 sleds to go. See the flags already for Jacqueline Lurling. Friends and family of the local heroine are here. Axel Junk's friends and family are down at the bottom there. That's in the grandstands below our commentary position at the finish line. So men's skeleton this morning, women's this afternoon. That starts at 2 local time. That's 1300 GMT. Wherever you are, you can convert that to your local time. And even if you were up watching the NFL playoffs last night, there should be plenty of entertainment for you in the remainder of this men's race and in this afternoon's women's skeleton. Big shout out to Coach Mark Wood, who's watching in Lake Placid with his latest group of youngsters. And the man who's responsible for producing a lot of sliding talent. There's so many who set the groundwork with all these athletes. When I get to meet them for the first time in World Cup, a lot of them are fully formed and absolutely flying, like the three we've just seen. But it's the groundwork that's put in behind the scenes. It's how you bring them up on the ice as babies that makes them into the slide as they are as grown-ups. Winterberg, Germany, race 3 of the season for the Men's Skeleton World Cup. Martin Haven with you watching the action as we get into the top 10 in our deciding second heat. Thomas Dukurs, bronze medalist 3 years ago. That was the last time he was on a podium. From here, he's not going to make a podium finish today. But a 5:01 start for Dukurs. That's 700s quicker than his first getaway. 7/10 off the lead. And he only has 300ths of a second ahead of Young of Korea, who was 11th after the first heat. Young put down a blinding second run, going nearly 3/10 of a second quicker than his first. So Dukurs, 1100ths behind from the start, now 1600ths of a second back. Nice smooth exit. If you take the clock away, there's often nothing to separate a winning Dukurs run, medal-winning Dukurs run, and a bottom of the top 10 Dukurs runner run. The boys look the same. He's coming back 700s, 128.5 is good speed. Is it good enough to take the lead? It's not. Didn't have it in the final corner. 56.84. Well, the Latvian brothers, as ever, will be working on the material, on the technology. We go to Sigulda for the European Championships in skeleton and in women and two-man bobsleigh just before we go to Altenburg for the Worlds, and it's those that will be the focus of their season, not World Cup races. They're looking for the big ones, the ones that get the medals. Got a lot of corner zero, brushed off the wall on the way down to turn 1. That groove is definitely still kicking people out sideways. Young Sung-gui leads, a top 10 finish guaranteed for the Korean. And that will be his career best in only his 3rd World Cup race. Next up is Great Britain's Marcus Wyatt. And Marcus came in from the middle of the field, 13th starter in his 15th World Cup. He was 10th here last year and in 9th place after the first heat. Needs another really strong run, though. He's a very quick starter. 4.97 in the first heat, 4.96 in the second, and controls corner zero a little better than the last 2 or 3. But Young started 4.87, So Marcus, as he lays down, is already with a deficit. And Yun had a very smooth run. The sled set up by Richard Bromley for all three Koreans was clearly right on the money. What about Marcus Wyatt's Blackrock? 900s back into the Kreisel. It's a bridgeable gap. You can make up or lose that much in the final corner. 200ths of a second. Here he comes. 96.9, 60.2. Equal fastest speed we've seen. Marcus Wyatt has now lit the afterburners. He's got to control the speed through the labyrinth. 128.8, that's the fastest of all. And out of the final corner, he's got the lead by 100th of a second. So Marcus Wyatt will be no worse than 9th. That's an improvement on last year. World Cup best remains a 5th place finish in Calgary last season. Marcus Wyatt holds on to his place, and there is a chance to move up. Well, here we are in the middle of corner 11. Doesn't allow the drop-off of pressure to drop him down too low. Keeps a nice even parabola. Great middle exit, nice smooth onto the take-on of corner 12. There's Andrei, our Russian fan there with the green hat, greeting everybody the same way all the fans do. A lot of admiration and respect for these athletes. Andy Schmidt holds the sled for Yang Wengang of China. The young man from Taijin, close to Beijing, just 22 years old, in his 7th World Cup start. Best World Cup result, 11th in Lake Placid. He's only raced here in the Intercontinental Cup before, but in his first World Cup race here, 8th place in Heat 1. So he is on for a career high at the moment, but a 5:05 start compared to 5:01 in the first heat leaves him with a lot of work to do against Marcus Wyatt, the current leader, and Jung Seng-gui of Korea, both of whom started in the 4s. So 1700s back from Jan. And helping Andy Schmidt with the technology and the coaching is Willi Schneider, another veteran of bringing on young sliders. Oh, lots of waves there. He get knocked away again and again. And when you're trying to set up the right line, if you get pushed off it and too much into the middle of the corner, you have to work hard to get on and off. Working much too hard, half a second down, 5th place slide at the moment. So this is going to drop him out of the top 10, 6th at the line. However, for a youngster who's only slid here, I think, once before, really lacking in track knowledge as it changes and as the weather changes, that's really where you find out. So he lies in 6th place. Marcus Wyatt has the lead with 7 to go. But Yang will finish no worse than 12th. 11th his career high, and he may yet match that. Well, on the way down to the Kreisel, he got nudged away a couple of times. It happened lower down as well. And it just puts you off your line, puts you off your rhythm. Marcus Wyatt stays in the leader's box. Flags the Russian Federation, and that is because our World Cup points leader is next up, Alexander Tretyakov. 32nd in Winterberg, which was his World Cup debut in 2004, when some of our athletes weren't even old enough to go to school. His next World Cup here was 2007. He won it. He has only been once off the podium since that race, and his last appearance here he won. 492 getaway. Tretyakov may be 34 years old, but with 15 wins and out of 58 podiums in World Cup racing, he is always a threat. 4800s off the lead, too far back, perhaps for medals today, but never count Alex out. He's a multiple World Cup champion, he's fast, he's consistent, he's unflappable. And when he's got the conditions right to win, he knows how to win. 2600s up on Marcus Wyatt at the start, remains 2600s up. He's holding his advantage. It's not huge inroads into the rest, but he's putting the pressure on them to try and force them to give away the mistakes. 1:29.1, fastest speed we've seen at the line, and he takes the lead with a 56.66. And that is the fastest slide of the second heat. If we were going on the second heat alone, he would be leading from Young with of Korea, with Marcus Wyatt in third. Here's one of the special slides of the sport, Alexander Tretyakov. He is quite astonishing in his consistency. On this track alone, 2 wins, 4 silver medals, and 5 bronze medals. So that's 11 medals in 13 seasons. Impressive stuff from Alexander Tretyakov. Looks like he will be off the podium again, though. Well, next up, Felix Kaisinger, 6th position for the youngster after the first heat. And this is now the battle for silver. We'll assume that Sun Bin Young is too far away. In time terms, he is too far away. He's 1900s clear of a battle for silver that is covered by a 10th. Yun has to give this away, but Kaisinger with a big run here can earn himself a medal. He took his first ever World Cup medal in race 2 at Lake Placid just before Christmas. A 4:92 start and a decent run through corner 0. He finds an extra 500s compared to his first getaway. Kaisinger really could produce the goods here. Just 21 years old. He's our reigning junior world champion. And he could go to the junior worlds for another 4 seasons, but I think he'll be doing World Cup duty instead. Junior worlds are back here in Winterberg. 2700s up on Alexander Tretyakov. Well, the gap between them was 1900s in the first heat. 2500s, Tretyakov had big speed at the bottom, 1:29.4, he matches that. That's very quick indeed to take the lead from Felix Kaisinger. Is that enough for a medal? 56.62. That's 400s quicker on that run alone than Tretyakov. So the lead goes out to 2300s. And just to remind you, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, covered by a 10th of a second. A 10th of a second. Kaisinger could take a 2nd career medal here. Nice even line, doesn't allow the sled to drop too low in the middle of 11. Good, strong starter, Felix Kaisinger, the youngster from Berchtesgaden. Felix Kaisinger, Alexander Tretyakov, Marcus Wyatt, the top 3. The battle for the medals is on. 5 sleds to go, race 3 of the BMW IBSF Skeleton World Cup in Winterberg, Germany. And in the second heat of the men's race, Axel Jung, winner in Lake Placid in race 1 of the season, silver medalist here last year and 4 years ago. 5th place, too far out? No, he's only 800s from silver. 4:95 getaway, 4:98 in the first heat. He needs every 100th of a second. He is now tied with Kaisinger as he lies down, losing a fraction in terms of momentum. The battle to be top German is not between 2 of them, it's between 3 of them, because the next sled on ice is Alexander Gassner. Lots of friends and family here from Axel Jung. Lives in Dresden, close to Altenburg, so it'll be his home track where we have the World Championships this year. Nice looking slide from Axel Jung, 1400s in front. He was 200s ahead of Kaisinger in the first heat. This is a shot for another medal here, 1900s, the gap's growing, 1:29.3, good speed at the bottom, that's 80.3 miles an hour. Kaisinger is out of the leader's box. Jung is in 56.40, 2300s quicker than his first heat. The pressure ratchets up another notch. Well, there are the orange Axel Jung t-shirts. Well, he's looking a little happier than he was after the first heat. And rightly so. Allows the sled to drop in the middle of 11. Watch the head steering now. He's leaning his head to the right fractionally just to steer it through the air. A little bit of an uncomfortable crossover there, but you have to look hard for big errors in that run. There's Andre with a flag of him and Axel. I've not seen that one before. Good stuff from our Uber fan. 4 sleds to go. We are deep in the battle for the medals here. Alexander Gassner, the top German, 100th ahead of Axel Jung, 300th ahead of Felix Kaisinger. And he was 700ths out of silver. 4:96 start. He started 5:07 in the first heat. He's found 11 hundredths of a second before he's even got onto his sled. Gassner born in Romania, but sliding for Germany all his life. He's been in and out of the World Cup squad. He's been a consistent player in the World Cup though for the last couple of seasons. 500s. This is creeping ahead of Axel Jung. And if he's not ahead of Axel Jung, then he needs 2 people to make a mistake to get him into the medals. Gassner 4th in the first heat, just 2 hundredths away from the medal spot. This is a really nice looking run from Alexander Gassner of Germany. 900s just creeping further away. Same speed as Jung at the bottom, 129.4 and a 56.38. Adds a further 2 hundredths to his lead and adds even more pressure to the men in front of him. Great, great run from all 3 German sliders. They've all just pushed as hard as they can to try and get into the medals on this German track. And Alexander Gassner does the same. 30-year-old, this is his home track. Winterberg is where he lives. And he would love to be able to take a medal here. And there is the fist pump of jubilation. He knows that was a good run. The problem for Gassner is 2 of the guys in front of him are Martins Ducours and Sunbin Jung, and they don't give medals away easily. So here we go, 3 to decide the medals. Martins Ducours, 51 career wins, unlikely to add to that today. But he has won on this track 10 times, I beg your pardon, in 13 years, 9 in a row. 4.90, big start from him as well. So as he lies down, he's 8 hundredths ahead of Gassner. Well, that alone, just that statement shows you what a good run Alexander Gassner had. Anytime you're 8 hundredths behind Martins Ducours, you're doing a great job. Anytime you finish 2 hundredths behind him, you're doing a stellar job. And the gap is coming back down to 5 hundredths of a second. On this track alone, Martins Ducours with 9 wins, a silver and 2 bronze medals. But he's in the red behind Alexander Gassner. We saw Brother Thomas struggling for pace on what looked like a good run, and Martins is as well. He is dropping out of the medals. Is he going to be second or is he going to be third? He is in 3rd place at the line. Gassner's in the medals. Axel Jung is second. Martins Ducours is 3rd. We could have 2 Germans on the podium. We could have 2 Koreans on the podium. But we may not have Martins Ducours on the podium. Last year, for the first time in 13 seasons, there was not a Ducours brother on the podium. This year might be the 2nd in a row. And that's never happened since they started sliding. Not here in Winterberg. Well, the speed just went away. The lines were good, the driving as exemplary as we come to expect from Superman. But again, they'll be experimenting with their runners, with their setups, and that, the answer to those questions was not necessarily the ones they wanted for gold. Not here anyway. 2 to go then, and this is a huge moment for Kim Ji-soo, the 25-year-old in only his 9th World Cup. He's had just 2 races before here. In the ICC in November 2018, That's the only time he came here to race. But 6th in the Olympic Games in Pyeongchang told us what potential he does have when he knows the track. And now a 4:97 getaway, that's strong, it's a top 10 start. He started 4:91 in the first heat though, that was 3rd quickest getaway. And Kim only had 700s ahead of Gassner, all of which has gone. $2,300s back. The setup and the sled were great in the first heat. His speed was great. The start not so quick. The lines look good. The form looks good. There's nothing to tell much of a difference between this and the first heat except the clock. He's going to drop behind Felix Kaisinger. We will have 2 Germans on the podium. He's going to be 5th at the line, 1:28 at the bottom, not 1:29. Only the 10th fastest run. 2 Germans on the podium here in Winterberg, led by the local boy Alexander Gassner. Axel Junk in 2nd, Martins Dukors in 3rd. Have I spoken too soon? Kim Ji-soo, 5th position, no worse than 6th. Listen, you know, this early in his World Cup career, that's still a great result. It's only his 9th World Cup race, and his 2nd race weekend in Winterberg. His career best is 7th place in Innsbruck, and he is going to beat that today. At least he will finish 6th. Well, 1 sled to go, and it is another Korean. It is Sun Bin Yun. Yun's record on this track, 1st and 3rd. 1st 2 years ago, 3rd last year. And the year before, this race was the only one, or in fact was the last one, until Lake Placid, when we didn't have Yun on a podium, including the Olympic Games. So our Olympic champion, Sun Bin Yun for Korea, 1900ths of a second, his advantage over his teammate in the first heat, and his advantage over Alexander Gassner was 2600ths of a second. He starts 4:91. Well, that's only the 4th fastest start, but he was 3/10 in front as he lay down. 1,400 meters of Winterberg ice. Surely all of that is not going to disappear. The gap's down to 2100ths. Dare Gassner hope that Yun is going to fumble away a gold medal? This could get close at the line. The lines look good, but the speed does not. 1,300ths of a second. Gassner does dare to believe. Yun is flying, but what's he got at the bottom of this track? Only 600ths of a second. 1:28.9. It's not enough, is it? Who's going to win this, Yun or Gassner? It's Sun Bin Yun by 500ths of a second. Somehow he found it. The speed was not as strong as Alexander Gassner's, and the lead went from 3/10 to 500ths in just 1,400 meters. Wow. Wow. Well, Sun Bin Yun claims his first win of the season after being 7th and 6th in Lake Placid, and his 2nd win here in 3 years. Alexander Gassner joins the ranks of Germans who have claimed silver medals, including last year's silver medalist there, Axel Junk, who also claimed silver 3 years earlier. Silver medals on this track as well to Germany's Frank Rommel twice, and to Miki Halilovic from Viesturs. Well, Kim Ji-soo lost out on a medal here, and his illustrious teammate very nearly did as well. But Yun clung on, used all his knowledge and experience. It was a clean slide, but maybe the track conditions didn't favour his setup quite as much in this 2nd heat. He went from 3,100ths up to 500ths. A whisker at the line, and that dive low through the final corner just had enough to hang on. Sun Bin Yun, a career, the gold medal, Alexander Gassner the silver, and Axel Junk takes the bronze medal. And the last time Germany had 2 medals finishers, well, it was before 2006. So it's been a long, long time in men's skeleton. Well done indeed to all three. Well, that was close for Sun Min Yun. He was absolutely flying in the first heat. An advantage in 1900s after one run, you normally expect to see grow, and with a good start, he did grow it initially. But as we talked about earlier on, you have to gamble and guess on what the weather is doing now and what it's going to do later. And Alexander Gassner may have felt a little behind the 8-ball in the first heat, but maybe that local knowledge, maybe a good weather forecast helped it coming to him. So Alexander Gassner takes a career best silver medal. Axel Jung takes a bronze. Germany with 2 sleds on the podium in the men's competition. And that does not happen that often. Last German winner here, Florian Gressel from Bavaria in 2008-2009, 11 seasons ago. So Yun with 500s advantage. The top 3, by the way, covered by just 800ths of a second. Axel Jung 300s behind Alexander Gassner. Martin Stuckers in 4th, 2/10 back. Felix Kaisinger 3/10 back in 5th. And Kim Ji-soo, what might have been, he ended up half a second back. But Alex Gassner, he will be so, so happy with that. Local man here in Winterberg. Not just the top German, but a silver medal. Winterberg in Germany, race 3 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. Axel Jung takes the lead with a win in Lake Placid, a 4th place in Lake Placid, and a bronze medal here. Martin Stuckers in 2nd place behind him. So Alexander Trechikov, who ended up in 7th place here, with 2 medals in Lake Placid, drops down the order. All sorts of changes will continue undoubtedly through the season as they battle for supremacy. And it was high drama after Sun Min Yun led comfortably in the first heat from teammate Kim Ji-soo. It looked as though he should romp away to victory. In the end, the speed ebbed out of the sled all the way down the 1,400 meters of Winterberg ice, and he ended up not 19 or 29 or 39 hundredths in front, but just a scant 500ths ahead of Alexander Gassner, who started the second heat in 4th place and took the silver medal. First win of the year then for Sun Min Yun. There's Axel Jung taking the bronze medal here. That's his 3rd medal on this track in 5 years. 2 silvers and a bronze now. Yun takes the gold, and on the left-hand side, biggest smile of all, I think, for the local boy here in Winterberg. Alexander Gassner gets his 1st World Cup medal on this track. And our race winner, Sun Min Yun of Korea. Well, he knows it came close, but in the end, if you win by 100th, you still get the gold medal. They also get the big glass of the local brew, Velton's beer, at the Velton's Ice Arena. So congratulations to our top 3. They will hit the road this afternoon to head to La Plagne in France. That's where you can catch up with all the action from the Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup Tour next year. But next week, don't forget, we still have the women's skeleton race coming up this afternoon. That is 1400 Central European time, 1300 Greenwich Mean Time. Wherever you are, join us then. Meanwhile, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, we'll see you then. Bye for now.